Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome to my brand new Let's Play of Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1. Now, like an idiot, I decided to just go ahead and start the game proper before considering doing a prologue episode first, so I'm pretty much making this as an afterthought. So, if you want, you can consider this the technical beginning of this Let's Play. Or if you don't really care about all the mission briefings and the previous operations thing that I'm going to read to you here in order to add some context to the story of this game, you can just go on ahead and skip forward to part 1 if you wish. I'm going to release both this prologue episode and part 1 on the same day. So you can pretty much just watch both or watch one of them, whatever you want to do. But if you want to have a little extra context for the story of Metal Gear Solid before moving on to part 1 proper, well, I got you covered. We're going to check out previous operations, and then after that, I'm going to check out the briefings menu with you. And once we do that, then that's pretty much going to be this episode, really. So first, we're going to check out Metal Gear, because believe it or not, Metal Gear Solid is not the first game in the Metal Gear series. It's technically the third. Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 came out for some PC-like console's name I forget, exclusively in Japan several years before other regions in the world got the third game in the series, Metal Gear Solid. So, they included this previous operations menu thing here, so you can read up on the events of its first two games, so you can figure out what happened before starting this game proper, or checking out the briefing files. Basically, the developers were kind enough here to give you everything you could possibly want to know before starting the game proper, so you know pretty much as much as you want before jumping in. So, let's just go ahead and check out the Metal Gear's file first, and then we'll move on to Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. The year 1995. Deep in South Africa, 200 kilometers north of Garsberg. Outer Heaven, an armed fortress nation established by the legendary mercenary. He was feared in combat by both his friends and foes as a hero and a lunatic. The Western nations have found out that a weapon is under development at Outer Heaven. They have called upon the high-tech Special Force Unit, Foxhound, to take care of the situation. In response to this order, Big Boss, Commander-in-Chief of Foxhound, sent Gray Fox, the man with the codename Fox, which is given to the best member of the unit. Operation Intrude N313. After a few days, his last message being Metal Gear, Gray Fox was missing in action. Taking the situation seriously, the top men of the West again called for Foxhound. Big Boss selected Solid Snake, who has just recently joined Foxhound, as the agent and entrusted everything to him. Successfully making a solo infiltration to Outer Heaven, Snake got in touch with local resistance members Schneider, Diane, and Jennifer. With their cooperation, Snake succeeded in rescuing Gray Fox. Gray Fox then laid out the terrifying facts about Metal Gear. Metal Gear was the development name of a nuclear warhead-equipped two-legged walking tank. It can walk through even the roughest terrains that would stop normal tanks. It can conduct local warfare by itself, with unique weapons like its Vulcan cannon and anti-tank missiles. It was indeed a new type of weapon that can conduct a nuclear attack against any place on the face of the Earth from any land surface. With Metal Gear, Outer Heaven was trying to establish its military superiority over the entire world. In order to destroy Metal Gear, Snake rescued Metal Gear's chief engineer, Dr. Petrovich, and his daughter Ellen, who was taken hostage to force her father to continue with his development. Snake hears from Dr. Petrovich how to destroy Metal Gear. However, as Snake approached the heart of Outer Heaven and Metal Gear, well-designed traps are set all around Snake, as if all his actions are being leaked to the enemy. In the midst of the escalating battle, the leader of the resistance, Schneider, fell into the hands of the enemy, and Snake himself was injured through the deadly battles with Outer Heaven's best mercenaries. But Snake's indomitable spirit led him to the 100th floor basement of the secret base where Metal Gear was developed. Evading the powerful defense system that wipes out all intruders, Snake ultimately succeeded in destroying Metal Gear. Snake tried to escape from Outer Heaven upon completing the mission. However, during the escape, he was confronted by one man, Foxhound Commander-in-Chief Big Boss. Big Boss laughed at the astounded Snake and told him of the truth about his mission. While serving as the Commander-in-Chief of Foxhound, Big Boss also ran a mercenary dispatch company, utilizing his connections and capital from his years as a merc. He was planning to build this company a larger military establishment, and he built Outer Heaven as its base. His purpose for sending the rookie Snake to Outer Heaven was to cause information confusion against the West. However, Big Boss miscalculated. He never thought that Snake would make it this far. Having lost Metal Gear, Big Boss activated the self-destruct system of the underground base. While the countdown to destruction continued, his scream echoed in the emptiness. "You have gone too far. Too far!" On the 100th floor basement, the battle between two men commenced, free of ideology and politics. The armed fortress nation, Outer Heaven, collapsed. The impenetrable fortress made from the best military technology and occupied by the toughest mercenaries burned in flames. Behind him, the flames reached skyward as Outer Heaven fell, leaving Solid Snake all alone. That covers Metal Gear. Now for Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake. Oh, there we go. There's the text. It was missing for a sec. 1999. The world was facing an energy crisis. It was obvious that the supply of petroleum would run out faster than expected. However, the development of an alternate energy resource is far from completion. The price of petroleum has skyrocketed, and the world economy is in confusion. The 21st century was expected to be one of chaos. One man's invention changed the entire situation. A Czech genius and biologist, Dr. Keo Marv, invented Oilix, a microorganism that refines petroleum to produce a highly purified form of petroleum. The world was filled with hope upon the discovery of this messiah to solve the energy crisis. But at the same time, the world entered a time of tension regarding this new algae. Just when the whole world's attention was drawn to Oilix and Dr. Marv, he was abducted by someone and disappeared. Nations began investigations immediately, and a name soon appeared: Zanzibar Land. Zanzibar Land was a democratic military regime that suddenly appeared in Central Asia in 1997. When their uprising took place, the CIS army, formed around Russia, sent a suppressive unit immediately. Zanzibar Land resisted by gathering a band of mercenaries from nations around the world and fortifying most of its land. As a result, the CIS army was repeatedly defeated, and Zanzibar Land declared its independence. Due to the active role mercenaries played, This war was called the Mercenary War, and Zanzibar land was referred to as an armed fortress nation. A military nation with a group of strong mercenaries, surrounded by a tough fortress. According to the latest information, Zanzibar supposedly was armed with nuclear weapons. The whole scenario was crystal clear. By obtaining oilics in addition to nuclear weapons, Zanzibar land was trying to establish its economic and military superiority over the entire world. Concerned about the situation, the United States ordered Roy Campbell, Commander-in-Chief of High-Tech Special Forces Unit Foxhound, to rescue Dr. Marv. Campbell was a former member of Foxhound. He brought back Solid Snake, the man who single-handedly brought down the armed fortress nation of Outer Heaven 4 years ago, and asked Snake to bring back both Dr. Marv and Oilix. Successfully infiltrating Zanzibar land, and with the help of CIA agent Hori and others, Snake was able to go deep into the fortress and meet again with Dr. Petrovich, the chief engineer of Metal Gear at Outer Heaven. He too was abducted to Zanzibar land and was forced to develop another Metal Gear. He told the surprised Snake of an even more shocking fact. Big Boss, the man Snake had defeated at Outer Heaven, turned out to be the general commander of Zanzibar land. Snake rescued Dr. Petrovich in cooperation with Natasha, Dr. Marv's guard, and former Czech International Secret Police agent, and then headed for the confinement facility deep in the fortress to save Dr. Marv. When Petrovich and Natasha crossed the narrow suspension bridge deep over the valley, a missile blew the bridge away. Natasha flew into the air because of the explosion. While unable to do anything to save Natasha, Snake started hearing a well-known voice. "Hey, Snake, we are good buddies. I can let you go. Just leave this place at once." Gray Fox. Snake saw Gray Fox controlling Metal Gear, the best soldier in Foxhound who, after the fall of Outer Heaven, disappeared as if he followed Big Boss. Losing Natasha in front of his eyes and letting Petrovich get taken away, Snake screamed, "Fox! I will not give up!" After a series of deadly battles with mercenaries, Snake finally made it to Dr. Marv's confinement facility. However, he arrived too late. He saw Dr. Marv's corpse and Petrovich, who could do nothing but just stand there. Petrovich told Snake that Dr. Marv could not withstand the repeated tortures because of heart problems. Snake then received an emergency call from Hori. The information she supplied was very shocking. Petrovich had been voluntarily visiting Zanzibar land to develop Metal Gear. The abduction of Dr. Marv was conducted under the directions of Petrovich himself. After the truth came out, Petrovich attacked Snake, but Snake easily put an end to him and obtained the structural plan of Oilix. While trying to escape, Snake was confronted by Metal Gear again, controlled by Gray Fox. The tremendous battle took place in the underground base. Snake finally succeeded in destroying Metal Gear. However, Gray Fox did not submit, and challenged Snake to the final battle. In the midst of a minefield, Snake and Fox fought without any weapons. A fist-to-fist duel involving no hatred or murder intent. During that weird moment of purity, the two were bound by forces transcending words and emotion. Snake won the tough but pure battle against Gray Fox. However, there was still someone else Snake had to fight. Big Boss. Just like 4 years ago at Outer Heaven, Big Boss was waiting for Snake. One who has experienced the tension of battle can never leave the battlefield. I am the one giving you something to live for, and that is war. Snake was infuriated at the arrogant big boss. There is only one battle I have to fight. To free myself from you, to shatter the nightmare. Big boss, I will kill you! With the structural plan of Oilex, Snake and Hori escaped from Zanzibar land on a rescue helicopter. Snake once again saved the world. However, there was no smile on his face. Big Boss's last words kept ringing in Snake's head. Whoever wins, our battle does not end. The loser is freed from the battlefield, but the winner must remain there. And the survivor must live his life as a warrior until he dies. Snake then disappeared into the white lands of Alaska, alone. Okay, I think that covers both the previous games. Let's move on to briefing. Bring ourselves to the present.
It's been a long time, Snake.
I should have known you were behind this, Colonel.
That's no way to greet an old war buddy, Snake.
What do you want from me?
I just invited you here so we could have a talk.
Invited? That's what you call sending armed soldiers after me?
Sorry if they were a little rough with you. But we've got a serious situation here. Only you can get us out of it.
I'm retired from Foxhound. You're not my commander anymore, and I don't have to take orders from you or anyone else.
You will take these orders. I know it.
Excuse me.
Who's this?
Dr. Naomi Hunter. She's chief of Foxhound's medical staff, and an expert in gene therapy.
Are you military?
No, civilian. I've been sent here from ATGC. Pleasure to meet you, Snake. Don't worry, this injection won't hurt a bit.
What's the shot for?
What's wrong? You don't like shots?
Snake, listen up. It all went down 5 hours ago. Heavily armed soldiers occupied Shadow Moses Island, a remote island off the coast of Alaska.
What soldiers?
Next Generation Special Forces, led by members of Unit Foxhound. They've presented Washington with a single demand, and they say that if it isn't met, they'll launch a nuclear weapon.
A nuclear weapon?
I'm afraid so. You see, the island is the site of a secret nuclear weapons disposal facility.
Foxhound hijacking a nuclear weapon?
Now you understand how serious the situation is. You'll have 2 mission objectives. First, you're to rescue the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, and the president of ArmsTech, Kenneth Baker. They're both being held as hostages.
Those are some heavy-duty hostages.
No
Secondly,
kidding.
you're to investigate whether or not the terrorists have the ability to launch a nuclear strike, and stop them if they do. Any questions, Snake?
Questions? I haven't even said whether I'd accept this mission.
Well, you can make up your mind after you hear more about the situation.
So this is the briefing file menu. You can, you basically learn bit by bit of the general outline of the mission and any information that your superiors want to give you about it. All in this nice little list that you just work from top to bottom. Now let's start with the infiltration
Tell me
method.
about the nuclear weapon disposal facility.
The disposal facility includes a hardened underground base. Even with our most advanced intelligence gathering equipment, we can't tell what's happening inside.
So someone needs to penetrate, gather intelligence, and report back. Sounds like a spy movie. What's the insertion method?
Well, an air insertion is impossible.
Not with this storm going on.
We'll approach the disposal facility by sub.
Approach?
Yes, within a few miles of it. The facility is equipped with sonar detection capabilities. They'd be able to hear our engine or propeller noise.
And then?
We'll launch a one-man SDV.
Launch?
Same as a torpedo, only this has no propulsion device of its own. After the SDV gets as close as it can, dispose of it. From there on, you'll have to swim.
You want me to swim in sub-zero Alaskan water?
They're
Don't
bringing
worry.
a coat.
That suit represents the latest advances in polythermal technology. The nuclear weapons disposal facility covers the whole island. I'll instruct you by codec after you reach your target.
Anyone going with me?
As usual, this is a one-man infiltration mission.
Weapons and equipment OSP?
Yes, this is a top-secret black op. Don't expect any official support.
So far, this is all pretty much information that we've seen in the intro video, which you can watch in part 1. So let's start with some new information now. The time limit.
What's the time limit?
24 hours. They say they'll launch after 24 hours.
Do they say what the target will be?
So far, they haven't mentioned the target.
When did the countdown start?
5 hours ago.
Now let's check our operation members. Person in charge of the operation. And we got free camera control. I can move it around.
Colonel, who are you speaking for?
And
Naturally,
zoom.
I'm representing the U.S. government.
So who's in supervisory control of this operation?
The President of the United States.
Which means that the President must be meeting with his top aides in the map room about now, huh?
No, at this point, they're still video conferencing with each other.
If that's a real nuclear warhead, shouldn't they issue a COG?
Not yet. The Secretary of Defense has operational control and is fully aware of the situation. After you infiltrate, if you determine they possess nuclear launch capabilities, a COG will be issued.
Well, if they haven't relocated to the nuclear shelter under Mount Washington, I suppose there isn't that much reason to worry yet. Is the National Security Agency in on this?
Yes. So is the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency.
The DIA? I'm starting to get a bad feeling about this.
They'll be sending us some support.
We don't need desk jockeys. We need a nuclear weapons specialist.
Of course. A nuclear weapons specialist has already been assigned to us.
Well, at least they're prepared. Support crew.
We need backup from a specialist. I'm just an amateur when it comes to nuclear weapons.
I know. That's why I've requested the assistance of a military analyst named Nastasha Romanenko. She'll be providing you backup by codec.
A female analyst?
She's built up an impressive record as an advisor for the Nuclear Emergency Search Team. Contact her if you have any questions. She's also an expert on high-tech weapons.
Where's she working from?
At her home in Los Angeles.
California. Seems like 1,000,000 miles away.
I would have read what was flashing on the screen, but I didn't want to talk over everybody who was speaking, so I'm sure you guys can just pause the video and just read it at your own pace if you wish. So let's move on to Roy Campbell. Or as I like to call him, Campbell's Chicken
Colonel,
Noodle
you're
Soup.
retired. Why are you involved in this?
Because there aren't many people who know Foxhound as well as I do.
Is that really the only reason?
I've been soldiering for a long time. I don't know anything else. I guess even though I'm getting a little old, I still love to be in the field.
Colonel, you're a lousy liar. Tell me the real reason.
Okay, Snake. Sorry. I'll be frank. A person very dear to me is being held hostage.
Who is it?
My niece, Meryl.
Now, who would want to hold your dear old niece captive, Chicken Noodle Soup?
What was your niece doing here?
Several soldiers were reported missing the day of the
Never
revolt.
mind, dumb question. It was
And my
here.
niece was one of those called in as an emergency replacement.
She looks like you.
She's my little brother's girl. He died in the Gulf War. Since then, I've been watching after her.
A personal motive, Colonel. That's not very soldierly.
I'm retired. I'm just an old man now. And I'm your friend.
Since when are we friends?
I've thought of us as friends since the fall of Zanzibar.
With my personality, I don't have too many friends.
That's what I trust about you. It's what makes you human. Please, Snake. Save my niece, Meryl.
All right. But I have two conditions.
Name them.
1, no more secrets between us. I want complete disclosure at all times. And 2, I'll only accept orders directly from you, Colonel. No cutoffs involved, okay?
Agreed. That's why I was called. But one thing,
What?
I'm not a colonel anymore. Just a retired old warhorse.
I understand, Colonel.
Well, so I got to basically rescue the DARPA chief, President Baker of Arms Tech, and Chicken Noodle Soup's niece Meryl. So 3 people I got. 3 people in total, at least. Since this base is on an island, I can only hope that somebody will have a boat ready. Anyway, Dr. Naomi, you're up.
That doctor, is she part of this operation too?
She was in charge of Foxhound's gene therapy. She knows more about those men than anyone else.
You mean you've seen them naked?
Make no mistake, I'm not a nurse. I'm a scientist.
By the way, what was that injection for?
It's a combination of nanomachines and an anti-freezing peptide so that your blood and other bodily fluids don't freeze, even at subarctic temperatures.
Nanomachines.
Not just one kind, either. There are different types which will replenish the supply of adrenaline, nutrition, and sugar in your bloodstream.
Now I don't have to worry about food.
I also put some nootropics in there.
Say what?
Nootropics. A class of drugs which will help improve your mental functioning.
It'll make me smarter, huh? Anything else?
Yes. Benzedrine. It's a type of stimulant. It'll keep you alert and responsive for 12 straight hours.
That was quite a cocktail. Anything else in there?
Those nanomachines will also keep your Codex batteries charged up.
I guess I can call you when I'm ready to go on a diet.
You're welcome.
Nanomachines are awesome. Hostages.
The chief of DARPA and the president of an arms manufacturing company. What business did they have at a nuclear weapons disposal facility?
The truth is that secret exercises were being conducted at the time the terrorist group attacked.
Must be extremely important exercises if those two were directly involved. Were they testing some kind of new advanced weapon?
I'm not privy to that information.
Do we know exactly where they're being held?
The DARPA chief has also been injected with a mini transmitter. As you get closer, you should be able to pick up his location on your radar.
Nuclear weapons is up.
Do they really have the ability to launch a nuclear missile?
They say they do. They even gave us the serial number of the warhead they plan to use.
Was the number confirmed?
I'm afraid so. At the very least, they've got their hands on a real nuclear warhead.
Isn't there some kind of safety device to prevent this type of terrorism?
Yes. Every missile and warhead in our arsenal is equipped with a PAL, which uses a discrete detonation code.
PAL.
Permissive Action Link. The safety control system built into all nuclear weapons systems. But even so, we can't rest easy.
Why not?
Because the DARPA chief knows the detonation code.
But even if they have a nuclear warhead, it must have been removed from its missile. All the missiles on these disposal sites are supposed to be dismantled. It's not that easy to get your hands on an ICBM.
That used to be true. But since the end of the Cold War, you can get anything if you have enough money and the right connections.
Money talks. Terrorist armament. I think it'd be a good idea to know just how well armed they are.
How well armed are these terrorists? I know there was an exercise going on at the time they revolted.
They're heavily armed, I'm afraid.
What about their battle experience?
The 6 members of Foxhound in charge are all hardened veterans. They're tough enough to eat nails and ask for seconds.
I wouldn't expect anything less from Foxhound.
The others are next-generation special forces. They're not your average grunts either.
So, what do they want?
So what exactly are they demanding?
A person's remains.
Remains?
That's right. To be more accurate, cell specimens which contain the individual's genomic information.
Cell specimens? Why would they want that?
The terrorists need them. You see, these next-generation special forces have been strengthened through gene therapy.
Strengthened?
You've heard of the Human Genome Project. They've been mapping the human genome, and they're nearly finished. Following up on this research, the military has been working towards identifying those genes which are responsible for making effective soldiers.
There are genes that do that?
Yes. And using gene therapy, they're able to transplant those genes into regular soldiers.
Gene therapy?
I'll explain this part. With gene therapy, we can remove those genes which we know may lead to sickness or disease, and at the same time splice in genes with beneficial effects, such as resistance to cancer, for example.
In other words, we can overcome all sorts of genetic diseases, and at the same time add genetic characteristics as desired.
Okay. And so if you knew what genes were responsible for making the perfect soldier, you could implant them in the same way, right?
Yes, we could.
But it all depends on being able to isolate and identify those soldier genes.
And in order to do that, it's helpful if you can study the genomic information of one of the greatest soldiers ever.
Genetic strengthening.
One of the greatest soldiers ever?
The man they call the greatest warrior of the 20th century.
You don't mean Big Boss.
That's right. We've been working feverishly to identify the genes responsible for his incredible combat skill. So far, we've discovered about 60 of the so-called soldier genes.
So his body was recovered after
The guy
all.
looks like a pirate.
Yes, and his cells have remained frozen in a cryo chamber. His genomic information is a priceless treasure to mankind.
Priceless to the military, perhaps.
His body was burned severely, but it was possible to restore his DNA profile from just a single strand of his hair.
You people are amazing. And then you're gonna transplant those genes into soldiers?
Yes. We'll use a process that I discovered called gene targeting. The strongest soldiers don't become what they are by acquiring their skills through training or experience. We now know that hereditary factors are far more crucial for creating superior soldiers.
Snake, we can't give them his body. It's potentially more dangerous than all the nuclear warheads on that island put together.
I hear the terrorists are calling themselves the Sons of Big Boss.
The sons of Big Boss?
I don't know. I think a whole stockpile of nuclear weapons is very, 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 very dangerous in the wrong hands. I mean, genetically altered or not, you can kill a man if you can kill a man all the same. But a nuke, you don't fuck with nukes. Nukes are devastating. Next generation special force units. Let's talk about these genome soldiers.
Tell me about these next generation special forces.
They started out as an anti-terrorist special ops unit, made up of former members of biochem units, technical escort units, and the nuclear emergency search team. Their purpose was to respond to threats involving next-generation weapons of mass destruction, including NBC weapons.
Until they were added, that is.
Who's they?
These guys didn't start out as regular army.
Looks like a pretty international group. Mercenaries?
Yeah, and it gets worse. Most of them were from a merc agency that I think you're familiar with. They were part of Big Boss's private guard. And after Big Boss went down, the military just bought out all their contracts.
Outer heaven.
After that, they were merged with our own VR unit, Force 21, and retrained. If you ask me, these so-called next-generation special forces should be called simulated soldiers. They have no real battle experience.
Video game players, huh?
Don't forget they've all been strengthened with gene therapy. They carry genes which make them excellent soldiers. Don't get careless just because they don't have much experience.
I thought using genetically modified soldiers was prohibited by international law.
Yes, but those are just declarations, not actual treaties.
The interesting thing is that nearly every member of the unit conspired in this attack.
Every single member of the unit. Every single one conspired. You must have done something to really piss them off in order to get everybody on board for it.
How could an entire unit be subverted to rebellion?
They're calling it a revolution.
Since they all went through the same gene therapy, they probably felt closer than brothers. They see the unit as their only family.
The sons of Big Boss. But if they were regular army, they must have been interviewed periodically by army counselors.
According to their files, they all got straight A's on their psychological tests. They all seemed like fine, upstanding, patriotic soldiers.
But they all took part in the uprising?
No, several people didn't show up on the day of the exercise. That's why there was a resupply of troops.
Was there any sign recently that something might be wrong?
There was a report a month ago that they were acting strangely.
Apparently they consulted classified information about the soldier genes and performed their own gene therapy experiments.
They can do that even without you?
Well, our gene therapy process is almost completely automated. And besides that, they're all geniuses with IQs over 180.
Damn.
Even the existence of this genome army is a national secret of the highest order. We've been hoping to investigate this thing quietly and deal with it behind closed doors.
I don't know. If they're all geniuses with IQs of 180, doesn't really explain why they're so damn stupid in actual gameplay. But I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's check out Unit Foxhound.
High-tech Special Forces Unit Foxhound. Your former
Quite
unit.
the close-up.
And one that I was a commander of. An elite group combining firepower and expertise. They're every bit as good as when I was commanding them.
So they're still around.
There are 6 members of Foxhound involved in this terrorist activity. Psycho Mantis, with his powerful psychic abilities. Sniper Wolf, a beautiful and deadly sharpshooter. Decoy Octopus, master of disguise. Vulcan Raven, giant and shaman. And Revolver Ocelot, specialist in interrogation and a formidable gunfighter.
Looks like a lovely bunch of folks. Too bad we'll be meeting under these circumstances.
And finally, in charge of them, Foxhound's squad leader, Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake?
Yes. And you're the only person who can stand against him.
So, there are 2 snakes. A solid and a liquid.
Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake. The man with the same codename as you.
Tell me what you know.
He fought in the Gulf War as a teenager, the youngest person in the SAS. His job was to track down and destroy mobile Scud missile launching platforms. You were there too, I believe. Didn't you infiltrate Western Iraq with a platoon of Green Berets?
I was just a kid myself back then.
The details are classified, but it seems that originally he penetrated the Middle East as a sleeper for the SIS.
He was a spy for the British Secret Intelligence Service?
But he never once showed his face in Century House. He was taken prisoner in Iraq, and after that there was no trace of him for several years. After you retired, he was rescued and became a member of Foxhound.
I thought that by the time I left, they were no longer using code names.
I don't know his real name. That information is so highly classified that even I can't look at it. Here's a photo of him. Pretty shocking, huh? His skin tone is different, but otherwise you two are exact duplicates.
I have a twin?
I don't know the details, but it seems so. That's why we really need you for this mission.
You're the only one who can beat him. Now that I've met you, I know. You've got something that he doesn't. I can see it in your eyes.
Why don't I find that thought more comforting?
I don't know. Just get a sniper somewhere within range of him, and then just blow his brains out or something. Boom! You beat him. You don't necessarily need this other gentleman who just happens to look like this other snake to kill him. I mean, I don't know.
I need to borrow your scissors.
What are you going to do?
Don't worry, just gonna clean myself up a little.
Huh?
I don't want to be mistaken for the leader of the terrorists.
Personally, I think it would be a good idea for you to not cut your hair, just in case you need to disguise yourself as the leader of terrorists if the situation calls for it, but whatever, you do you. Okay, that covers the previous operations and the briefing. We have every little bit of information from both previous games and even the briefing session here to go on before starting the game proper. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this and bring this episode to an end. So I hope to see you guys for part 1 if you decide to check that out. I hope you all have a great day. Take care.